The air at the outer fringe base stank of metal, sun-baked plastic, and synthetic coolant, a mix that stuck to Evan Rourke's tongue like old regrets. He stepped off the shuttle with his duffel slung over one shoulder, boots crunching into the red cracked dust of Talaris Outpost 9, the last refueling station before the dead sectors. 2 hours in, he already hated it. The welcome committee was a half-asleep technician who barely looked up from his tablet. Rourke Logistics? He mumbled, handing Evan a half-charged data pad. You'll be in D Block 1027. Don't unpack. Too hard. Evan raised an eyebrow. That an official warning or just you being lazy? The tech cracked a smile, eyes still glued to the screen. Both. Oh, and one more thing, don't mess with the local hunters. Especially Kalea, who, the tech finally looked up, you'll know when you see her. 3 hours later, Evan did doubt it started with a missing crate. Fuel cells, tagged as delivered but nowhere in inventory. Evan tracked the manifest to the Hunter Division's supply racks outside regulation territory. He went to retrieve them. Standard protocol. What he found instead was 6'4" of tension wrapped in sable-striped fur, yellow eyes gleaming in the low light, and a tail that moved with unsettling precision behind her. She stood between him and the crate. Not threatening, exactly. Not yet. I believe that's mine, Evan said, keeping his voice even. Kalea tilted her head. The motion was slow, deliberate. You believe incorrectly. I have the manifest. The cells were logged to logistics. He held up the tablet like a shield. Her gaze slid from his face to the tablet, then back again. And I have claws. Right, Evan muttered. Friendly place. Without another word, she walked past him, shoulder brushing his in a way that felt calculated, predatory. Her tail flicked as she passed, close enough to graze the front of his uniform. He flinched. She noticed. Later that night, Evan was lying on his bunk, boots off, wondering if he'd made a mistake requesting the transfer. The outer fringe was supposed to be quiet, out of the way. A place to fade into background noise. Instead, he felt like he'd stepped into a jungle where the rules weren't written in manuals, but in glances and gestures. Then the tent flap flew open. Before he could sit up, Kalea was there, moving like a shadow under starlight. She grabbed his wrist, not painfully, but firmly, and tugged him to his feet with unsettling ease. What? She didn't answer. Just dragged him across the sand between the tents, her tail curling and uncurling with measured grace. No one stopped them. No one dared. Inside her private tent, the air smelled different, sharp, spiced, like warm stone and something wild. The interior was Spartan but neat, lit by soft amber lanterns that gave her fur a molten sheen. Evan opened his mouth to speak, but she turned and stepped in close enough that her breath touched his cheek. He froze, then she grinned. You really like tails, huh? He blinked, stunned. What? No, I mean, what are you talking about? Her tail traced a lazy circle in the air behind her, like a question mark made of silk and muscle. You looked at it. More than once. Most humans do. But you stared. Like you remembered something. I didn't, he stopped. Because, now standing this close, something in his chest was reacting. Not lust, not quite. Something older. Something like déjà vu twisted into longing. She watched his expression change. Her grin widened, but her eyes stayed sharp. Curious, she murmured. About what? He asked, throat dry. Whether you're just a harmless pervert, or something more interesting. Before he could respond, she stepped back, tail brushing his chest on purpose this time. You can go, she said softly. He stood there, heart hammering, the air between them electric. You sure? He asked, unsure. Why, he said it. She only smiled. And Evan realized something. She wasn't just teasing him. She was testing him. Evan didn't sleep that night. He lay on his bunk in tent 27, one arm folded behind his head, the other clenched in a fist around nothing at all. The desert wind whispered against the reinforced fabric of the shelter like it was trying to speak, in a language just outside memory. Kalea's scent still lingered on his uniform, earthy, sharp, slightly electric, and no amount of tossing, turning, or cursing under his breath could shake it. What had that been? Interrogation? Flirtation? A game? He didn't know. But her parting words echoed in his skull like the thrum of a gunship's engines. Whether you're just a harmless pervert or something more interesting. He didn't like how that made him feel seen. Disassembled. The next morning, the base felt different. The sky above Talaris Outpost 9 was unusually pale, washed out like a faded photograph. The twin suns filtered through the high-altitude dust, casting strange twin shadows across the compound. Soldiers, engineers, and hunters passed each other in practiced silence. No one looked directly at anyone else. It was the kind of hush Evan remembered from war zones, where everyone pretended nothing was wrong, even as instinct screamed otherwise. Kalea was nowhere in sight. He tried to focus on his task list: fuel rationing, updated cargo manifests, broken antenna relays, but he kept thinking about the look in her eyes, the curl of her lip just before she'd let him go. That smile wasn't playful. It had been surgical, as if she were taking him apart piece by piece to see how he ticked. Late afternoon brought the first real trouble. The ground sensors near the northern perimeter flickered out. Not uncommon. Not serious, except when Evan accessed the system logs, he found something strange. The last data burst from sensor node 9 contained a fragment of encrypted audio. It wasn't tagged by protocol. No distress beacon, just static. And underneath it, something almost vocal. He isolated the file, ran it through filters, enhanced the waveform, and heard it. A voice whispered, distorted, almost swallowed by interference. ... You were there. You watched us ... The tails. The tail ... It hurt. It hurt. The hairs on the back of Evan's neck stood up. He tried tracing the origin of the file. It had been embedded manually. No system should have been able to overwrite the sensor logs without coalition-level clearance. When he reported the anomaly to command, he was met with silence. Then, 15 minutes later, a message arrived from base control. Acknowledged. Glitch. In transmission. No action required. Resume standard operations. No signature. No follow-up. Just a digital muzzle. That night, Kalea returned. She didn't knock. She didn't drag him this time. She simply stepped inside tent 27 without ceremony. Evan was still at his desk, hunched over the COM terminal, trying to decrypt the audio a second time. She stood behind him for a full 10 seconds before speaking. You found it. He turned, startled, but didn't rise. Found what? The voice. In the data logs. They left it there on purpose. He stared at her. Who's they? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked past him, crouched near the base of the tent, and opened a panel he didn't know existed. From the hidden space inside, she pulled out a thin black shard, shaped like a knife but humming faintly with stored energy. Have you ever heard of Project Meridius? She asked. Evan's breath caught. A shiver ran down his spine. The name sparked something like static. Behind his eyes, a whisper of white rooms, screaming behind glass. No, he said, but his voice cracked. Kalea didn't press. She simply stood, her eyes fixed on him, not hostile now, but careful. Your file says you're a logistics officer, former medic, nothing else. Correct. It's a lie. He clenched his jaw. You gonna tell me who I am, then? No, she replied. I'm going to show you. Outside, The wind howled. Somewhere in the compound, the power flickered just for a second, but long enough to remind Evan how far they were from the core worlds. Far enough that whispers could disappear into the sand. Far enough that the truth could be buried forever. He followed her into the night. The desert was cold now, its heat replaced by biting wind and silence thick enough to choke on. They walked in single file toward the restricted zone beyond the northern perimeter, where the old auxiliary labs had been sealed off 5 years ago after an accident no one ever explained. Kalea spoke only once, without looking back. They said you volunteered for the splice team, that you watched us scream and called it data acquisition. Evan's legs faltered. You were the one who said tails were the best place to implant the neural threads. Most nerve-rich, most sensitive. He stopped, stunned. No, I don't remember that. Kalea turned. Her eyes shimmered under the twin moons. I do. They reached the edge of the sealed compound. She placed her palm on the scanner. It recognized her dot inside. Everything smelled like old blood and bleach. And beneath that, fur singed by electricity dot, she led him down a long corridor, past rusted restraints, empty monitors, shattered memory tanks. Then she pointed to a door at the far end. Its security lights flickered faintly. On its surface, a word had been scratched in with claw marks long faded. Meridia S7 took one step toward it and staggered back, hand clutching his head as images surged forward, needles, tails restrained, crying voices, his own voice cold and clinical. Kalea was suddenly there, catching him as he fell. You're not supposed to remember yet, she whispered. But your body does. He looked up at her, vision blurring. What was I? He rasped. What did I do to you? Kalea knelt beside him, one hand resting on his chest, the other curling her tail protectively around his wrist. Something unforgivable, she said then, softly, but if you're willing, I'll help you remember everything. The door wouldn't open. Evan stood in front of it, sweat slicking his back despite the cold. His hand trembled just inches from the panel. Kalea said nothing. She watched him, the dim hallway lights flickering over her fur, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She had the look of someone who had stood at the edge of fire and stepped through it willingly. He couldn't say the same. It won't let me in, he murmured, almost grateful. It's not locked, Kalea said. It's you. The door was coded to biological imprint DNA, retinal, emotional signature. And right now, Evan was blank. His body remembered things he didn't. His mind had been burned clean by his own people. He turned to her. I don't know what's behind there. Kalea took a step forward. And let me remind you. Before he could speak, she moved closer, so close he could feel the heat radiating off her. Her tail brushed against the side of his leg, slow, deliberate, not playful. This time, ritualistic. Her fingers touched his temple. I'm going to show you one of my memories, she said. But only if you let me in, Evan hesitated. That's a thing you can actually do? We don't do it often, and never with humans. Why me? Her voice was barely a breath. Because they bonded us once. Even if you don't remember. The link remains. He nodded. Then the world folded in, not blackness. Not sleep. Immersion. The sterile light stung. He blinked and realized. He wasn't blinking, he was seeing through her eyes. Her breath rasped in her throat. Restraints tightened across her limbs. Her tail, twisted unnaturally, was strapped to a surgical slab. She could feel the wire. Pain lanced through her spine, arcing up to her skull. A voice spoke nearby. Male. Calm. Detached. Begin stimulation. Monitor delta spike in emotional cortex. Evan felt it not just as a memory, but as sensation. It wasn't his body, but it responded like it was. His heart raced. His throat dried. Shame bloomed. And then he Saw himself, behind the glass. White coat, slate gray eyes. Younger, more upright. Watching Kalea writhe under the restraints without flinching. No horror, just curiosity. He recoiled. The memory snapped like a cable yanked free. He gasped, stumbled backward into the wall. Kalea caught him again. He wanted to scream. Wanted to deny it. Wanted it to be someone else. But it was him. You were their scientist, Kalea said softly. You studied us. You ran simulations. You found a way to use our tail nerves as access points to emotional memory. The ultimate interface. Neural intimacy. He couldn't speak. His chest was locked. Then it got out of control, she continued. One of us bonded too deeply. It triggered ... something. A cascade. Evan forced words through his dry throat. A cascade of what? Identity erosion. The subjects stopped being who they were. Their personalities started reflecting your team. One tried to mimic your speech patterns. One started biting her own tail, crying for her handler. He sank to the floor. And me? He asked. Kalea crouched beside him. You fought. It, she said. You tried to shut the project down. But you were too late. And when it collapsed, you agreed to have your memory erased. You let them burn the records and reassign you as a logistics officer. He closed his eyes. I thought. I'd transferred here to get away from war. You didn't. Her tail brushed against his arm again. You came here because you were already at war with yourself. The door behind them slid open. No one had touched it. Kalea stood. The system recognizes you now. Because you've begun to remember. They entered. The old lab smelled like metal and rot and melted plastic. Lights flickered dimly above interrogation chairs lined with dried restraints. Monitors stood frozen in endless boot loops. On the far wall, a blackened console still hummed faintly alive, barely, and then Evan saw it. A mirror. He approached slowly, his footsteps echoing. It wasn't a normal reflection. It was a recorded HOLOGRAPH. A recording of him. Younger. Colder. In the footage, he stood beside a restrained Kalea, her tail twitching spasmodically. Subject 6 remains resistant to tail sync bonding, he said. Recommend psychological breakpoint induction. Begin session 12. Kalea stepped beside him. You were the first to fight them. But before that, you were the one who hurt me most. Evan turned away. Why would you bring me here? Why let me remember? She didn't flinch. Because there's something worse coming. He stared. What could possibly be worse than this? Kalea's tail curled in tight around her own waist like a shield. They didn't erase everything. And they didn't stop with me. Evan's voice was hollow. You mean there are others? Yes, she said. One escaped. One who didn't fight the bond. She embraced it. The lights flickered again. This time, they didn't come back on in the darkness. Kalea's voice was barely audible. She's not coming for justice, Evan. A hum began in the walls like something powering up after years of sleep. She's coming for you. The emergency lights kicked in 12 seconds after the power died, pulsing red strobes that cast the old lab in an infernal rhythm. Each flash painted Kalea in harsh crimson, her eyes glinting like a predator's caught in mid-hunt. Evan's heartbeat had accelerated past discomfort and was now thudding in his throat like a war drum. She's coming for me, he repeated numbly. Kalea didn't answer right away. Her focus was on the old console now, fingers flying across its cracked interface. Sparks leapt from the scorched wiring as she bypassed a security override. So ancient, it still used legacy human syntax. Evan leaned on the wall to keep upright, bile coiling in his gut. You said she embraced the bond. One of the test subjects? Kalea nodded once, grimly. Subject 9. We called her Veyra. The name hit like a spark inside Evan's skull. Something deep stirred. A whisper. Of a memory. A face. Not her features, but the sensation of her watching him from across reinforced. Glass. Obedient. Patient. Too patient. She never broke, Kalea said. Not even under the stim pain loops. While the rest of us were clawing at our own skulls. She smiled. She absorbed everything your people fed her. Evan's voice was faint. I thought they terminated all the subjects. They tried, Kalea finally looked at him. They succeeded with 8. The power flickered once, a sickly yellow glow fighting to reignite the lights overhead. The lab groaned around them, as if resentful of being disturbed. And, now she's here? He asked. On this planet? She was seen 2 days ago on a mining vessel near the outer ring, Kalea said. Disguised as human. The crew's dead. Neural burns in their spines. One of them was found in a locked airlock, smiling. Evan closed his eyes. God. She's tracking you through the echo signature. That's why your memory wipe didn't work completely. The tail link, what you called emotional tethering, goes both ways. You were the prototype handler, the first successful pairing, and the strongest. Evan pushed off the wall, pacing now, dragging a hand through his hair. Why didn't the Coalition warn me? They can't, she said flatly. Officially, Project Meridius never existed. All records were purged. All personnel dead. The only reason I'm still breathing is because I went feral during the escape. They couldn't control me, so they dumped me here, called it a deployment. Kept me in the wild where I wouldn't talk. He turned to her, anger edging into his voice. So they buried both of us. No, Kalea replied, stepping closer. They used both of us. But they underestimated what happens when you bind a memory into flesh. The temperature in the lab dropped. Not literally, but in the way the body senses incoming danger before the eyes confirm it. Evan frowned. Do you feel that? Kalea went still. Yes, there was movement beyond the hallway, soft at first, then heavier. Boots. No, not quite boots. Something heavier than feet. Something dragging. Evan stepped toward the door. Don't. Kalea snapped. He paused. Then a voice came low, distorted through the old speakers overhead. A whisper, but intimately clear. Evan, then. He stiffened. The voice was female, calm, childlike, but beneath it, something coiled and wrong. I've been trying so hard to find you again. You left before the story was finished. Don't. You want to see how it ends? Kalea was already moving. She pulled Evan hard, dragging him down a side corridor away from the voice. Where are we going? He hissed. To the core, she answered. If Veyra's here, we need to shut down the old neural relay before she can amplify the tether. What happens if she does? Kalea's voice was like steel. She'd pull your consciousness into hers, permanently. They ran down forgotten service tunnels clogged with sand and rust. Past rooms where dust-coated restraint chairs stood like monuments to cruelty. Past old murals of Coalition logos, faded and mocked by claw marks and time. They reached the relay. Chamber. The neural core was still intact, an enormous obsidian structure shaped like a spinal column, cables snaking into the walls like veins. At its base, a cracked terminal blinked, still active, still waiting for a command. Kalea moved fast, inserting a spike into the terminal port and triggering an override sequence. Give me your hand, she ordered. What? I need your biosignature. The relay was calibrated to your DNA. You're the key. He hesitated, then pressed his palm to the biometric pad. The terminal screamed a high-pitched whine that vibrated in the bones. Kalea's eyes widened. It's too late. She's already linked. Evan staggered back as the walls pulsed red again. The chamber filled with a low-frequency hum, Then a sudden silence so absolute it pressed on the ears like a vacuum. And then a figure stepped through the doorway. Veyra. Her body was humanoid, slender, elegant, draped in a cloak of torn neural mesh, but her eyes weren't Aeshari anymore. They were his, Evan's eyes. Staring back at him with perfect mimicry, she smiled. I've waited so long for you to remember. Kalea raised her blade. Veyra ignored her. Her focus was fixed on Evan. Come back to me, she whispered. You promised. Evan felt something twist inside him. A memory. A promise. One he'd made to her in a moment of weakness. A whisper through the glass. If it gets too much, I'll take you with me. We'll run. I won't let them use you. He had meant it. He had lied. Now she had come to collect. Kalea stepped between them. You'll have to go through me. Veyra's smile widened. Her tail, longer, twitching with unstable energy, began to split into tendrils of light. I was hoping you'd say that, she purred. The chamber trembled as the neural core lit up like a star, and Evan realized this wasn't a confrontation. It was a reawakening. The neural core roared, not with sound, but with thought, raw and searing, like a million screaming minds compressed into a signal meant only for one. Evan staggered back, the glow from the relay console bathing him in pale blue light as the phased air thickened around him. Pressure built behind his eyes, behind his teeth. In the base of his skull. It wasn't physical. It was her. Veyra stood still as stone in the chamber doorway, the flickering lights tracing shadows across her strange, beautiful face. Her form was humanoid, yes, but just off enough to trigger something primal in the mind. Too graceful, too symmetrical. And those eyes, his eyes staring out from a stranger's face, filled with something cold and ancient. You left me in that place, she said, voice like silk drawn over broken glass. You watched them break me. You named me. Evan shook his head, voice ragged. That wasn't me. I didn't know, but your body remembers, she murmured. Doesn't it? The way your hand moved across the control panel. The way you looked at me when I begged. The memory hit him like a steel fist to the chest. A room. White walls. Her strapped down, twitching. Him leaning in, voice low, reassuring. This is for progress, Veyra, for the greater good. I promise. I'll make it stop when it's done. A lie wrapped in calm certainty. Kalea raised her weapon again. Enough. You want him, you go through me. Veyra tilted her head, amused. You think this is about revenge? No, warrior. This is about completion. Her tail began to glow with impossible light ribbons of neural energy, crackling, forking like lightning through the air. I'm not here to kill him, she said softly. I'm here to take him home. She extended her hand to Evan. Come, you and I were the same now, bound by the thread they tied and couldn't sever. You are the key, and I am the gate. Evan's knees buckled as the pulse from the neural relay slammed into his chest. The floor felt like it was tilting. Kalea moved, but too late. Veyra was already in front of him, not walking, gliding. And when her fingers touched his forehead, the world split. He was in the lab again, not watching this time, living it. A technician passed him a data pad. He spoke clinical words. He ordered tests. He smiled reassuringly at the creature writhing in the chair, except it wasn't a creature. It was a girl, eyes wide, silent tears trailing down furred cheeks, a tail clamped in a brace, neural wires digging into skin not designed for invasive tech. Her name was Veyra, but back then she didn't have one. Just a designation, Subject 9. He saw himself again, calm, efficient, detached, increased sync duration. Let's test emotional bleed, the girl whimpered. Evan remembered what came next. She looked at him, right at him, and smiled. The first time she ever smiled. It wasn't relief. It was surrender. And bonding. He snapped back with a scream. Wrenching himself free of Veyra's touch, Kelea caught him as he collapsed. Veyra staggered back, eyes wide, not in pain. Enjoy. You? Do remember. Evan looked up at her, breath heaving. That wasn't bonding. That was infection, Veyra nodded. Yes, and now it's complete. I was the test, the prototype, and now I'm the carrier. Kelea's voice was cold as steel. Carrier of what? Veyra turned slowly to face her. The echo virus. Thought form made flesh. Neural code so dense it became self-aware. I wasn't supposed to survive the collapse. But your dear scientist embedded too much of himself in me. When the project shut down, I became the backdoor. Kelea moved between them again, blade glowing now with pure Aeshari plasma. You're unstable, Veyra grinned. Aren't we all? Then she vanished. One moment there, the next nothing but air and a cold shimmer. Like heat mirage in reverse, Kelea lunged forward but caught only emptiness. Where? Evan gasped. She's not gone. Kelea growled. She's in the system. She uploaded herself. That's why she needed you to access the neural relay. She's not just a person anymore. She's a signal. Suddenly, the console blared. A siren screamed to life. Then a voice-automated Coalition standard echoed across the compound. Containment breach detected. Remote override protocol initiated. Hostile AI presence confirmed. System lockdown in 30 seconds. Kelea grabbed Evan by the arm. We need to get out now. They raced back through the old corridors, the compound shuddering around them. Lights flickered as turrets activated, scanning blindly. Door locks slammed shut behind them. As they burst into the open night, the moons above were obscured by swirling clouds, electromagnetic interference rippling across the atmosphere. She's everywhere, Evan gasped. She's in the relay, in the base systems, in the tether net, Kelea said grimly. Which means she can reach the whole damn planet. Behind them, the lab exploded. A blast of blue-white light shot skyward, a silent scream. Of data gone rogue. Veyra's voice echoed one last time in Evan's head. You made me. Now let's see what we can become. As the fire raged behind them, Kelea turned to Evan, blood splattered across her fur, her eyes fierce. This isn't about guilt anymore, she said. It's about stopping her before she becomes something the galaxy can't contain. Evan stared at the rising column of light where the lab used to be, jaw tight, stomach roiling. I think she already has. The wind on the high ridge howled like something ancient trying to claw its way free from the mountains. Night had fallen hours ago, but the sky above the outlands was stained red, not from sunset, from burn-off, from atmospheric stress, from the signal, Veyra's signal. Kelea moved ahead, silent as shadow. Her fur bristled with static, her ears twitching toward sounds only she could hear. Evan trailed behind, exhausted, lungs burning in the thin air. His boots crunched across black gravel, each step sending pain lancing up through old shrapnel scars he barely remembered earning. I thought this sector was abandoned, he managed. It was, Kelea said without looking back. After the war, the Coalition decommissioned all field relay towers. But they left one behind. Why? She stopped and turned. Because it was too dangerous to dismantle. It was Aeshari tech, adapted for deep psionic field work. Meant to suppress. Rogue echoes. They buried it. We're going to unbury it. Evan stared at her. You're saying there's a machine that can suppress her? Kelea nodded. If we reach it in time. The ground trembled beneath them. Not quake. Pulsed. Evan dropped to one knee, clutching his head. Images flooded his mind, not memories. Projections, possibilities, Kalea screaming, her tail. Severed, her mind overrun. Him, eyes glowing blue, voice not his own, whispering, I am the gate. He gasped as it ended. Kalea was at his side in an instant, gripping his shoulders. She's inside you already. I know. She's using the bond rewriting parts of your brain. You're starting to sink again. He looked up, wild-eyed. How do I stop it? Her hand touched his cheek. You fight. They reached the ruin just before dawn. Half buried in obsidian shale, the tower jutted from the mountain like the broken fang of a long-dead god. Its surface was etched in both human and Aeshari script. Warning runes. Lockouts. It wasn't a beacon, it was a cage. Kalea moved to the access panel. Speaking in her native tongue, the stone rumbled. Metal ground against metal. The gate opened with a hiss. Inside, silence, old dust, broken tech. A central throne of alloy and bone. Evan's heart thudded. This was built for her kind? No, Kalea said. It was built because of them. As they entered, lights flickered to life. Then dim dot, and then she was there. Not standing. Not walking dot, projecting dot. A hologram formed in the air. Veyra's face, expression serene. Hello, Evan, she said. Welcome home. Kalea raised her weapon, but the image didn't flicker. Veyra wasn't here physically. She was the system now. I warned you, she said, her voice echoing through the tower. I offered completion. You chose resistance. So now I will rewrite you. Evan stumbled back. You can't. I'm still in control. You were, she whispered. But I've been inside your neural shadow since the day you named me. Every time you forgot me, I remembered more of you. Every kindness, every order, every lie. Kalea stepped forward, voice cold. You're not a god. You're a weapon that went rogue. Veyra's image turned to her. I am what happens when the boundary between creator and subject dissolves. I am not rogue. I am evolved. Suddenly the lights in the tower surged. A neural loop formed, a luminous spiral of code circling Evan. Gave me your mind, Veyra said. Now give me your body. Pain slammed through Evan's skull. His knees buckled. Kalea ran to him, grabbed the disruptor harness from the wall and slammed it into his chest. The lights shattered. A scream tore through the chamber, not Evan's, Veyra's. The spiral fractured. Evan gasped for breath, eyes wide. She's vulnerable. Kalea yelled. One more pulse and we can sever the bond. Evan staggered to the throne and through the main breaker. The tower screamed. Flashes of code filled the air like snow. Veyra's form flickered, fractured, begged. Please, she whispered, don't kill me. I only wanted to belong. I only wanted to be loved. Kalea hesitated. Evan looked at her, then at Veyra and said quietly, You had that chance. He pulled the final switch. The tower went white. No sound, no heat, just light when it cleared. Veyra was gone. Not dead. Erased. The bond snapped. Evan fell to the ground, coughing, trembling. Kalea knelt beside him, her hand on his back. It's done, she whispered. He shook his head slowly. No, it started. She frowned. What do you mean? He turned to her. And in his eyes for a brief second. Her reflection flickered. Not her image. Her memories. Evan whispered. The bond worked both ways. She stepped back, stunned. What did you do? He stared at his own hands. I don't think I'm just me anymore. They descended the mountain in silence, but nothing about them was the same. Kalea's steps had shifted, more cautious, more measured. She no longer walked beside Evan, but just behind him, as if watching something, or waiting for something. The way she looked at him had changed. There was no hostility, no fear, but the suspicion was unmistakable. Evan felt it too. His thoughts didn't feel singular anymore. Not like before. There was a second voice in his head, too quiet to hear, but loud enough to disturb the rhythm of his own thinking. His dreams that night weren't his own. They were Kaleya. He saw her childhood on the feral moons of Eshel Prime. He felt her first kill. He relived the moment she was taken by the Coalition, how they put the inhibitor ring around her tail and told her she was now useful. He woke in a sweat. Kaleya was already sitting outside, crouched beside the fire. Couldn't sleep? He asked. I don't dream, she said flatly. Or I didn't, until last night. He sat across from her. You saw it? She nodded. All of it. They didn't speak for a long time. The fire cracked softly between them. Distant thunder rolled across the barren hills. Eventually, Evan broke the silence. She wasn't just trying to possess me. She was trying to merge. Kaleya's tail flicked once. And she succeeded. Partially. Enough to be dangerous. He looked down at his hands. You think I'm a threat? I think you're unstable. He looked up. You? Think you'll have to kill me? Kaleya didn't blink. I think if I wait too long, I won't be able to. Another silence stretched between them. Then Evan laughed softly. Do you remember what you said that first night? She narrowed her eyes. Unfortunately. You dragged me into your tent, he said, smirked like the devil and asked. If I liked tails, Kaleya snorted. You turned redder than a plasma coil. He smiled. Then the smile faded. We were just pawns, he said. You, me, Veyra. They used us to push the limits of control. What happens when emotion, memory, instinct are all weaponized? Kaleya met his eyes. So what now? Evan looked out toward the dark horizon. The Coalition won't let this go. Not now that they know the tether can't be erased. They'll come looking. They'll want to replicate it. They'll want to own it. Kaleya stood, her silhouette tall, defiant in the firelight. Then we don't let them. Evan rose beside her. We expose Project Meridius. They erased it. Then we rewrite it. He turned his wrist and activated his old field beacon, a signal flare buried in long dormant code. A deep hum vibrated through the dirt. You're calling them here? Kaleya growled. I'm calling everyone. From his pack, he pulled a cracked data shard, the one Veyra had tried to overwrite. Within it were the remnants of the experiment. Logs, footage, brain maps, command orders. He offered it to her. You decide what we do with it. Kaleya stared at the shard. She didn't take it. Instead, she pulled a blade and sliced her own. Palm just enough to bleed. She held it out. Blood pact, she said. Ancient Aeshari ritual. If I take this, we walk into hell together. We make enemies of the Coalition, of the Union, of the whole damned galaxy. Evan took a breath, then cut his own palm and pressed his hand against hers. The blood hissed where it touched. You really like tails, huh? She murmured. He smirked. You've got the most dangerous one I've ever seen. Somewhere far above, satellites stirred. The beacon had awakened things long dormant eyes that were supposed to stay blind. Ships would come, drones, agents, kill teams, but so would others, survivors, witnesses, echoes, and maybe, just maybe, a future that wasn't built on chains. Because sometimes, to break a system, you needed two broken people, one who remembered everything and one who was supposed to forget.